Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello, hi. Welcome back to NPTEL MOOCs course on developing soft skills and personality. This is 7th week, module number 3 and lecture number 39. I have started the discussion on non-verbal communication in this week, and in this module particularly I am going to talk about some basics and universals in terms of non-verbal communication. Before I start, let me give a brief quick review of what I did in the previous lecture. In the previous lecture, I highlighted some basic issues of non-verbal communication, particularly the issues related to use of verbal and non-verbal in general, and then more when we come to talk about non-verbal, I focused on voluntary body language and involuntary body language. Voluntary body language or the formalized gestures like the namaste handshake that we do, and which we are very conscious about it, and that is why it is unproblematic. But the involuntary body language, so that is actually a subconscious reflection of our innermost thoughts, which means it's problematic because we actually do not know what we are telling others through our body language. Are we afraid? Are we overconfident? Are we nervous? So these things, even if we want to control it, we are using our own body to express and give clues to others. The other interesting factor that I talked about in the previous lecture in terms of issues is that with regard to appearance. So I highlighted this in order to tell you as why you should really bother about your appearance, because in terms of non-verbal communication, people who are attractive are just to be more intelligent. They are supposed to be more capable. People think that they are generally more intelligent and capable, so they should be hired, they should be promoted faster, so they should be given more money in terms of increment. Now the interesting thing is there is no factual basis to corroborate this, but it's the impact of non-verbal communication. Okay, about 93% impression that is created even before you speak. So that's actually giving this appearance the impact that whether it deserves or not, so it's trying to do that. So I just told you that you should be cautious about your appearance. So it's not about looking good in terms of the physiological aspects, but looking good in terms of grooming yourself, taking care of your body language and all that. Later I talked about the types of nonverbal communication, and particularly about 7 types I focused. The kinesics is actually referring to body movement and gesture in general. Facial expression is something that we talked about, and then we looked at the 6 basic facial expressions. Oculesics is about eye gaze, and then here I talked about the dilation as well as contraction and how people can manipulate your interest to selling you something at a very high price just by looking at your behavior in terms of your eye gaze. Haptics is to do with touch, and then we know that it's the one that the infant is born with, and then it's something that continues till one grows up. And then touch or lack of touch can tell us the amount of intimacy, the amount of comfort a person is receiving in interpersonal relations. Then I talked about proxemics, that is to do with the use of interpersonal space, and then how we need to use it, what uh, is suggested when a person is coming close to somebody, what do we do when we like or when we don't like someone, why do we sit close with someone and why do we maintain distance with someone. So these are the things we looked at, and then I spent quite some time on chronemics, that is with regard to the monochronic as well as polychronic time perspectives people have. And then I said that there are cultural differences, but in terms of corporate culture, most of the times they go for monochronic time perception. So time is important, time is budgeted, time is rationed, time is money. So your entire personality is measured in terms of the way you use time. So you have to use it very frugally, carefully, in a very planned, consistent manner. I concluded the lecture with reference to paralinguistics as also a type of nonverbal communication. It indicates vocal cues and silence, but I also try to communicate with you that silence is perhaps the highest form of eloquence, and then you need to use that very effectively. And it's a kind of misconception that speaking more can get you the desired results, but often you can use silence to get what you want in life also. So with that I concluded the lecture. In this one, when I am going to talk about body language, basics and universals, I just want to tell you first that some gestures have culturally different meaning. Okay, this I mentioned it in the previous one also. But irrespective of that, even if there are cultural differences, there are some universally acceptable expressions. In fact, there are many already listed, and we are going to look at some common sets of universal expressions which are going to help us. The other interesting thing that you should notice, most of them have originated from the Western concepts. Okay, the book on origin of species, and then Darwin's theory linking man's behavior with those of chimpanzees, and then so many studies which followed. So they have all actually started from the Western one. So the body language expressions which we generally consider as universals are all coming from the Western books. So while applying them, especially in an Indian context, we need to use our discretion. We need to be very careful. We need to look at the context and we need to accept the deviations. Look at the simple example which I briefly mentioned in the previous lecture, that is of touching the feet of elders. Now in Western context, if you go and touch not only elders, anybody's feet, it's considered slavish. And if it is a boss, junior or subordinate relationship, it is considered as that you are trying to flatter. It's considered that you are not honest, and in worst case that you are uncultured. Now in an Indian context, as you know, it's exactly the opposite. When somebody touches the feet, particularly of the elder person looks at the one who touches her feet as somebody who is respectful, sincere, well behaved and cultured. Okay. In fact, they feel that the family has actually trained this person in a very nice and culturally acceptable manner. Now look at these deviations, but at the same time today we are in a global scenario. So we are living in this globalized culture where uniqueness of cultures are actually getting fragmented and disintegrated. So the corporate culture, the multinational culture is actually removing what is individualistic and introducing what is common to all. So in this context, again you need to know in a professional sense also, what are the universals, what are the basics which you can follow and which you can try to create a good impression when you use them as expressions for your emotions. Look at some basics, particularly in terms of defensive gesture. Now crossing arms, so crossing arms but slightly slouched, okay, so slightly it's low, and the legs also is not straight, okay, and then it's also sometimes pulled together. Now this slightly slouched one, it's indicating insecurity, lack of interest in mingling with others, lack of trust in the other person, and there is a kind of internal discomfort when the person is trying to hold it in a slightly slouched manner. However, if you are seated with someone and then you are holding it, so it can mean that you are empathizing, you are sympathizing with the other person to whom you are talking to. You are suggesting that, okay, I am not going to interfere, just keep going. So I'm just controlling all my body language, I'm just sitting, I'm all body to you, all attentive to you. Okay, so it can indicate empathy. Now, can it become even an offensive gesture? Look at the picture I have put below. So crossing arms very upright and tight, okay, and then legs in a firm open position. So it can indicate self-confidence, okay. It can indicate contentment, especially when you look at our own famous picture of Swami Vivekananda. All the time you look at him, so he's shown that he's crossing his arms, but then he's not indicating, as it could be seen in a Western context, that he's showing an offensive gesture, is also not showing a defensive one. But then this kind of one, especially when the feet are open, okay, so and then the arms are actually crossed, so that can indicate self-confidence. It can also indicate contentment, I am satisfied with myself. It can indicate modesty, it can indicate humility. But in the extreme case, as I have put the other figure down, it can indicate arrogance. It can show that I am more powerful than you. Let me see what you can do to me. Okay, so it can indicate that kind of attitude also. So you have to be very careful. Normally, any kind of crossing gestures are considered to be defensive ones. Okay. So people use that kind of crossing gestures even in terms of using handbag and all that. Look at feet. Now our feet can indicate attraction as well as dislike. So if you are standing or sitting and are attracted to someone, whether or not you are talking to them, your feet will be pointing in that direction. Okay, this spontaneous response, they say, generally like your feet is open and then it's pointing towards that person. So you are welcoming a conversation with the person and then you are interested in the person. But it can also mean dislike the way the feet is used. If they are withdrawn, okay, it can mean that you are not really inclined towards talking to the person. Or look at another situation. If you are approaching two people talking to each other, they are your classmates. Now, if the feet of the people stay in place and they twist only their torsos, okay, they just look at you and then they talk to you, but then they are not completely turning towards you and then leaving the feet open. So it indicates that they don't want you to join the conversation. In fact, they dislike your joining. But on the other hand, if they want you to join, like I said before, so they'll keep the feet open, indicating that you are welcome to join. So this feet, although we think that face is the index to mind and it gives everything about a person, feet also can give very important clues about what the person is thinking and what the person wants to do very spontaneously. Look at some more basics and universals in terms of attraction. Men occasionally play with one of their earlobes while talking, so indicating they are attracted to the person to whom they are talking. In case of women, It's believed that they'll play with the lock of hair, okay, or they just try to put the hair in the front, or they continually tuck their hair behind their ears. So these gestures, they say that especially leaving it loose and putting it in front, they generally say that is showing that they are interested in at least talking to the person in front. They like talking to the person. If not, it is leading to a very serious kind of attraction, but at least they are not afraid. Okay, they are not inhibited in talking to this person. Now, conversely, men digging earwax, okay, especially they may take the pen cover and then use it and then dig earwax, or picking nose, especially while communicating with women, they are supposed to be filthy or perverted. So, because there are some perverted thoughts are going, that is indicated by the nose picking or trying to dig earwax, especially when they are communicating with someone. So, they are doing it unintentionally and they are not able to control it. But the person who is sitting at the opposite can just understand that the thoughts are not very clear. More in terms of basics and universals, any gesture, as I was trying to communicate before, that is not crossed, as opposed to crossing, if it is open, so any kind of openness, open hands, open palms, even coat which is not covered fully but unbuttoned. Okay. So, all these are indicating that I am open, I am honest, I am truthful, I am free to talk to you. The opposite is defensiveness, arms crossed, and then while talking they look at the sideways, they are not maintaining eye contact, touching or even rubbing nose, rubbing eyes, button coat, drawing away. So, when you talk, the other person keeps moving away. So, it is indicating that the other person is somewhat in the defensive mode. Insecurity is indicated in so many simple ways, but which most of the times we do it inadvertently. Pinching flesh. So, you yourself try to pinch, okay, and then chewing pen or chewing anything. Some people chew the collar, okay. So, whatever is in their hand they keep chewing. Even chewing gum while talking to somebody, people say that it's a kind of psychological insecurity. Thumb over thumb, so like putting the thumb over thumb, biting fingernail. So, these are all symptoms of insecurity. But the opposite, cooperation. How do you understand that somebody is willing to cooperate with you? The upper body in sprinter's position. So, sprinter is like the person who is about to sprint. So, slightly inclined towards the other person. So, this slight leaning shows that the other person is interested, as opposed to withdrawal. So, the more you lean back, you are indifferent, you are laid back, you are not interested in conversation. Sitting erect, you are somewhat in a neutral one, but slight leaning towards the person in the front is indicating that you are actually interested in the conversation, interested in talking to the person. Sitting on edge of chair. Remember, when will you do this? Especially when you watch a thriller, when you watch a suspense movie, when you watch any event that you are so engrossed. So, initially when the movie begins, you are at the back of the seat relaxed. Slowly as the movie unfolds, and it's very thrilling for you. So, you move towards, and at the end climax, you are literally on the edge of the seat and you want to see what's happening, okay, who has done it. Okay. So, sitting on edge of chair, so will show that you are cooperating, you are deeply interested in what's happening before you. Hand to face gestures and unbuttoning coat. So, all will indicate that you are actually trying to cooperate. Now, confidence, this is not something that comes to the person by pretension, but usually when the person is confident, like the steepled hands. So, and then hands behind back. So, while sitting, for example, the person is kept like this, back stiffened, so standing straight, hands in coat pockets with thumb out, hands on lapels of coat. Now, hands in coat pocket with thumbs out is showing confidence, but hands in coat pockets with the thumb in can show that the person is defensive. Hands on lapels of coat is indicating confidence, but hands trying to hide, okay, somewhere inside the coat, so will indicate insecurity. How is nervousness indicated? Clearing throat frequently, especially in a talk. Again, this can indicate nervousness, but then there are exceptions, like if the room is too cold or the person is actually suffering from severe cold, the person can do that. So, you have to use discretion. I will talk about this in the next lecture, but right now the basics, when somebody is trying to clear throat, normally the person is nervous, especially in a situation where the person is asked to deliver a speech. Whistling in the dark in particular, when the person is moving, is afraid of the dark. So, whistling is a way to communicate that the person is not that afraid and trying to muster up some courage, but actually inside the person is nervous. Smoking, especially before the interview, especially before meeting your boss, especially before you have to go and talk something very important. So, that indicates nervousness. Pinching flesh, fidgeting. Fidgeting is doing with your finger or with your leg. So, you do something even you do not know why you are doing it, why your fingers are behaving like that. Covering mouth while talking. So, that again can mean you are trying to hide something, lie, but at the same time you are nervous because you do not want somebody to find out that you are actually lying. Jiggling money or keys from the pocket. So, you have kept some keys, but then you try to jiggle. Tugging ears, like trying to pull it or trying to fold it, put it inside, and then wringing hands. Okay, so, all these things can indicate nervousness. Frustration. When the person is frustration, usually he takes short breaths or sounds like tightly clenched hands, wringing hands. So, wringing hands is indicating nervousness, but extreme form of wringing hands can indicate frustration. Fist like gestures, rubbing hand through hair, rubbing back of neck. So, all these ones can indicate that the person is frustrated. Let us look at some very quick behavior and interpretation. Tilted head, slightly tilted head, it is indicating the person is interested in your talk. Stroking chin, trying to make a decision. Looking down, face turned away. So, looking down, face turned away. So, not believing in you. Biting nails, insecurity, nervousness. Rubbing hands, anticipation. So, you might have seen when you tell small kids, either as a parent or as a teacher, you say that, oh, this weekend let us go for a picnic. So, immediately the children do like this, oh wow, I am ready. Okay, where are we going? So, rubbing hands indicating anticipation. Pulling or tugging at ear, it can mean indecision. So, I am not able to decide on what you are telling. Hand to cheek. So, hand to cheek, evaluation, thinking. Touching, slightly rubbing the nose, it can mean rejection, doubt, even lying. Rubbing the eye, again doubt, disbelief. Hands clasped behind back. I even showed a picture in the quiz. It is anger, frustration, apprehension, but this is not on the back of the head, but hands clasped behind back. Okay, so and then you are just hiding that it is clasped, it can show that you are angry, frustrated or apprehensive. Locked ankles, again apprehension. Inspecting fingernails or looking at a watch. So while talking to somebody, the person is closely inspecting the fingernails or looking at the watch frequently. So it indicates that I am bored, okay, or it can show vanity. So what kind of nonsense you are talking, okay? So it's really boring. In fact, it is suggested that if you know that somebody is really boring you, looking at the fingernails will indicate to the person that the person is boring you, or looking at the watch either on your hand or on the clock that is fitted on the wall, looking at it frequently can indicate that you are boring, you are wasting my time. Head resting in hand, eyes downcast, again can mean boredom. I showed again a picture, so in the quiz, so it can indicate that it is boredom. Brisk erect walk, confidence. So as opposite to that, so if the walk is slouching and then head is slow, it and then dejection, so that I have put it at the end. Walking with hands in pockets, shoulders hunched is dejection. Standing with hands on hips, so it can mean readiness, I am ready, but it can also mean aggression. Sitting with legs crossed, foot kicking slightly can indicate boredom. Sitting with legs apart, open, relaxed, arms crossed on chest, defensiveness. Sometimes people even use folder, okay, and then they put it there. So indicating they are not comfortable with the person sitting before them. Walking with hands in pockets, shoulders hunched indicates dejection. Sitting with hands clasped behind head, legs crossed. So there was a picture in the quiz, the boss sitting like this, and then it shows confidence, superiority. Open palm, sincerity, openness, even innocence. So children, like you tell them, show me what you have in hand, they'll just show like this. So indicating that no, I don't have anything. Innocence. Pinching bridge of nose, especially eyes closed, so that is evaluation. Tapping or drumming fingers, that is impatience. Steepling fingers, authoritative. Patting, fondling, rubbing hair, lack of self confidence, insecurity. So you might see especially the subordinates when they want to talk to boss, especially in terms of increment or asking for some money. So they'll try to scratch their hair while asking, sir, I want to ask you this thing. So that shows lack of confidence and insecurity. Now whatever I discussed are the basics universals, but keep them with a pinch of salt that when you use it in Indian context, you need to use it appropriately. We will look at how we can interpret and what are the real issues when we are trying to do that in the next lecture. But before I conclude, some more thoughts on body language, and just I want you to be motivated to use this body language appropriately. Understand that body language is innate in us, that is, it's in us, it's in our body, it's in our system, it's in our brain, it's in our behavior. So you need not go and bring something from outside. Studies have shown that even a blind person compared to a normal human being, both of them try to express body language in a similar manner. Example, when they are victorious, okay, so both of them raise their hands. So when they are sorrowful, the face was indicating the same kind of agony on both faces, whether the person is blind or whether the person is able to see normally. So, even a blind person expresses in body language effectively. So, this is something that you should keep in mind. So, most of the emotional expressions which you like in others, which you should imbibe in you, actually they all lie latent. So, they are hidden, they are concealed. Okay. You do not have to borrow it from someone. What you have to do is, you have to pay attention, you have to control the bad ones, but you have to work and take efforts to make the good ones manifested. You have to patent them, what is latent in you. You have to bring them out, it has to come out. Now, the suggestions that I have given, you need to introspect what kind of gestures I am using. Ideally speaking, you need to stand before a mirror when you are practicing something, look at your gestures, but more than that, we are interested in the involuntary gestures that you are making. Ask somebody to make videos when you are in a group, when you are alone, without your knowledge, okay, without your knowledge. And then if the friend is close to you, you sit with the friend and then try to analyze your own behavior. Ask the friend, ask yourself, which of your behaviors were acceptable and which expressions you could change. And you try to interpret, when were you behaving in a defensive manner, when were you behaving in an offensive manner, what were the body language cues that were given to the others indicating that you are aggressive, you are afraid, and indicating that you are confident, you are happy. So, what were the clues that were going from your body? So, overall, try to use body language to better your life and achieve what you want. As a concluding thought, I just want you to leave you with one quotation from Martha Graham, which says, "The body never lies." As a good habit to be developed, if I tell you, you should speak the truth all the time, you are going to laugh at me and tell that, oh, this world is full of lies, and then how can I speak truth all the time? And then this world is not for people like Mahatma Gandhi or Harish Chandra. So, we have to tell lies, and without telling lies, we cannot survive. Now, if you have that kind of thinking, this quote tells you, do whatever you want, you keep telling lies, okay, in your words, that is 7% of what you are telling other people. But 93% of your body, which other people are actually watching in terms of impact, and 100% of your body expressions, they never tell a lie. What you are thinking, how you are feeling, what you think about the person in front of you, okay, all these things are seen by the other person in a very transparent manner. Your body is telling the entire story. Your body is actually the autobiography that others can read it very easily. So, when you realize that your body never tells lies, shouldn't you be careful? And don't you think that there is no point in thinking that you will tell lies all the time and try to convince people? People are not going to trust you, they are just going to see what the body tells you. And even they do not tell you that they are looking at the body, it is what their mind is trying to get, and they get an intuitive feeling, but all our intuitive feelings are actually guided by the emotional expressions, the body language cues. So, the body never lies. Speak truth in terms of verbal as well as non-verbal communication. So, with this thought, let me conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will come back with more suggestions for improving your body language in the next lecture. Thanks again.